So I was like, I know how it goes with you and I. We just like talk about such good stuff, and we just have to record now.
Count me in. I'm in Salt Lake City right now, and the air quality versus Mexico City is unbelievable. I can
Uh,
breathe here.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you how's Mexico been and all that good stuff.
I really love it there. It's just so impossibly difficult to live a healthy life because I can't even find toilet paper that's unscented.
Right.
No joke.
Yeah.
So, it's such a big adjustment. It took me quite a while to find laundry detergent I'm comfortable using. And so it's third world for sure. But God, the energy there is fantastic. The people there are so patient and friendly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's got a lot of very positive like community, person to person, like relationship, vibe that's way higher, way more prioritized in society there.
yeah,
But like you said, like when they went industrial, when we went to the industrial age, like these third world countries get the shit of the shit, and we already know how bad it is in the States. Like
yeah.
it's let me get this going right quick.
Yeah, you're right. I was spoiled in Dallas in a way that Utah is still behind. My mom lives in a smaller city called Lehigh, but just finding organic produce here was insanely difficult.
In Utah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, people don't realize it till they leave, how good Texas is. And man, I've traveled a lot, and I'm like, man, I'm like, we're so blessed here, and we have
spoiled.
good beef, good veggies. Like you can go to the farmers market, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there's Mennonites here, that do it right. There's
Yeah,
Christopher Farms who feeds himself and a few other people in the community, but that's not
it's
nothing.
my favorite farm.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fun, man. I'm so glad we got to connect there for a little bit.
Yeah,
And
I wish I had more time. I
I
wish we
know,
had,
me too. Me too. Yeah, definitely me too. But, through that interaction, I feel like it really kind of sparked this idea in my mind to just reconnect with you. And I had such a good time there and, on the farm with you, but also just like the past of like how we met, and that whole journey too, right? I've always been drawn to your vibe and everything you do for fitness and whatnot. So if people out there don't know, this is Dillon Peterson. He's a personal trainer. I met Dillon 10 years ago. I don't know, maybe longer, at least around that time. And he really impressed me because he's super unconventional, which is exactly kind of how I am with nutrition. Like it's not the traditional conventional methods. And I don't know why I'm interested in the taboo so much, or just going against the mainstream, I guess. And maybe that's my renegade or rebelness in me. But whenever I find that in someone else, like it's just like law, it's like a magnet. I'm like, oh, this guy. So when it comes to fitness, Dillon takes everything you think and goes like this. It turns it upside down on its head. And it's so powerful because so many people nowadays, they want to get lean and ripped and put on muscle, but they forget that this body has so many layers of fascial systems and organs and meridians and all these things that make us whole. And, a lot of people look at things as sections, just like in my world with nutrition and the medical industry, the liver. So let's talk about the liver. But it's like, well, let's also talk about how the liver is connected to the gallbladder, and that's connected to the pancreas, and that's connected to the stomach. And like, there's this whole cycle that we have to take into consideration when we do things. And if we don't, we're going to be damaging our body long term. We're going to be setting ourselves up for injury. And yeah, so Dillon, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and your journey, what got you into stuff, and kind of like where you're got you into what you do, because it's multifaceted. It's not just like movement and stuff. You're a beautiful human, so you always have all these philosophical insights on things as well. So I always enjoy hearing your perspective and angles that you come at me with when we have discussions, and it's always like, oh, think about that shit. So, anyways, Dillon, the floor is yours, bro.
Yeah, I got into fitness in a hilarious way. I used to play flag football, and I was on this flag football team that won a small league championship. And we were all out drinking at the bar after. And one of my teammates was like, "Oh, you're in great shape, why don't you come train at one of my gyms?" And it was a Gold's Gym franchise. So I got started at Gold's Gym uh, in 2010, and then I was just on this miraculous right place, right time journey. Um, my second training job was at Equinox Health Club, which is only in major metropolitan areas. And then I stayed with them for 14 years because I just kept running into the most brilliant minds in the industry. And I got introduced to fascia and um, three-dimensional training,
Mm.
meaning getting all your planes of motion in. And then after long and I got into the mechanical side, I found nutrition. And as we were working with local companies to try and partner with our program for easy recommends, we found Crucial Fitness, Crucial 4, not Crucial Fitness. We found Crucial 4, and I really believe in what you guys do. And then we found it was Diamond Physicians
Mhm.
at the time. And I just saw how it could all work together. Um, and then I got a massage license, which brought me to the spiritual aspect. So I've had brilliant doctors and brilliant nutritionists and brilliant movement specialists who have taught me simply because I was stationary at that Equinox location. But then I also got to see the part where the corporate side takes over and the company that was all about getting better, get better, get better turned into make money, make money, make money. So I got to be in the really neat, unique time in fitness where there was all these pre-workouts that started and everyone got addicted to pre-workouts and energy drinks and protein supplements, and then all the information started coming out on it. So anyway, the spiritual element coming to my training style has been the most important because it matches where the metrics have gone. I saw you wearing your aura ring there.
Yeah.
And I see so many people with those, but not understanding how to use the data. And it's both simple and also very challenging to do. But that's such a great source of information, but we get stuck on just looking at it for steps and
Can we go
sleep.
into that right quick, because that's super relatable? I feel like for people, because it's like someone heard that and they're like, okay, well, tell me more. So let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go into that. Let's go with like the metrics that you see people look at, and kind of. I mean, you work with people, so not only what they look at, how they look at what they look at.
Yeah. The readiness score is dismissed on that because it's the hardest thing to understand. But those devices track what's called your HRV, or heart rate
Variability.
variability.
Yeah.
And your heart rate variability is how we determine how much stress your body is ready for. So imagine you're going to run up a flight of stairs. Your heart rate should increase while you run up the stairs to match your activity, and then go back to normal very quickly when you get to the top. So if your heart rate can elevate quickly and then go back to normal, your variability is high, right?
Okay.
Which means your body can handle a big change of events, or you're ready for more stress. Whereas if you were to run up the stairs and then you get to the top and you put your hands on your knees and you're like, oh, I'm not in as good a shape as I thought I was.
Yeah.
That's a quick sign that your variability is low and your body's not as ready for stress because the small stress of running upstairs taxed you in a way that's surprising. So the readiness score tells you how much stress you can handle. So on your Aura ring, if you have a 96 readiness score, then you're ready to be thoughtful. You're ready to do something challenging. Your nervous system is ready to handle stress.
Hmm.
But if you wake up and you have a 70 on your readiness score, your variability is lower, so your body's not as ready to adapt to stress. So it's not stay in bed and sleep, but you just make adjustments to your day that are stress related, not just physical and sleep related. So the quick wrap up is people think that sleeping will change your readiness score or eating a certain way will change your readiness score, and neither of those are true. The readiness score is an emotional thing. It's there's a spiritual element to it because
It's
what's stressful, what stressed me out doesn't stress you out.
and that's where the heart rate variability comes into play and understanding that connection with what you just said.
Yeah, so to make it in workout terms, let's say that I have a hard workout plan for today. I'm going to do burpees and box jumps. You know, I need a 96 readiness for that. If I have burpees and box jumps planned and I wake up with a 75, it's not don't work out, but I might just do push-ups and then step ups
Yeah.
instead of burpees and box jumps. So I decrease the stressfulness of the movements. I make them simpler and less stressful. Then I can still get my physical exercise in without taxing my HRV necessarily, because
Hmm.
that's sort of measuring your fight or flight response.
Would you speculate that if someone has a low readiness score and they go and try to do those box jumps, maybe they're ignoring the score and they're pushing through it? They're because they're obviously going to be super caffeinated, maybe, or they're on ketones and they're
Uh-huh.
caffeinated, and so they're just their body's so stimulated that their percentage of injury is now increased like crazy.
Way increased because your coordination is going to be off. Okay. Every exercise is a series of chemical reactions. So your body has to like pump adrenaline and pump blood and grab oxygen and run these energy systems, right? So each one of those individual things is another layer of stress. Stress, I'm defining stress as any chemical reaction in the body. So even happiness, which is a release of oxytocin and serotonin, those are taxing the body in a way because it has to generate those chemicals, right? So that is a stressor that you're going to have to recover from. And your hormones recover much more slowly than your muscles,
Mm,
and they also tend to be more overused.
mm.
So I heard a statistic that the body is designed to recover from 2 fight or flight responses in a day, and the average American has more than 47,
Holy shit! We better link that one.
right?
That's a good.
So,
That's crazy. Wow, that put yeah. And a lot of time those responses are when people are sitting. It's like a mental response, which needs to physically be exhausted, which doesn't happen, which probably makes it even worse, right? It's like being
yeah,
so pent up. People so pent up, and just like,
That's a beautiful point because a lot of what people do in the name of recovery is they watch TV. But if you watch a TV show that elevates your heart rate, you're literally sitting in your living room having a fight or flight response,
Right.
even though you don't interpret it that way because you're doing it to shut your mind off.
Right.
But people are shutting their mind off with intense television that is just building up inside them even more and zapping that readiness score.
Versus things that will balance the readiness score or lift the score or actually be a valuable solution.
And the key to understanding this is two parts, I would say. It's your senses, the more number of senses you're using, touch, smell, taste, see, hear, the more stress you're under typically. If all five of your senses are firing, you tend to be doing things that are more intense or more relaxing if you're standing in a gentle breeze, listening to birds chirp, smelling the fresh air, right? Seeing sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're overstressed, you want to reduce your intakes, shutting your eyes. Your vision is where most of your stress comes in. And then your hearing is the second piece where most of your stress comes in. So if you want to de-stress, I suggest gentle music without a human voice because the mind grabs on to the human voice. And so you'll pay more attention to something where there's talking or singing than you will just gentle music. Shut your eyes, get earplugs,
Sounds like we need to
those type.
meditate, Dylan.
Yes, yes. And also get your idea of meditation straight. Because when I first started, I couldn't sit down and peace out into a new realm. When I first started, I was like, okay, I just am going to try to sit still for 10 minutes and whatever else happens doesn't matter.
Yeah. And that's hard to do. And we, but that's what needs to get done. And that's the real work. And there's a reason why we can't do that, which is a huge red flag that people need to become aware of. And now we're talking about being more conscious. And the more conscious and aware we are of self, the more we're able to notice the subtle shifts in the days after.
Yeah.
And I was always
But being,
reminded too, like when we're in there and we're sitting and we're meditating and like our mind goes somewhere else, it can be frustrating. Like you said, like not getting to that zen, not getting to that peace. And a lot of times people just give up, or
yeah,
a lot of times people just look at it as a failed meditation. But I was taught that every time that happens, and then you just simply go back to breath or back to whatever the void,
hmm,
that you're rewiring circuits every single time. And if it keeps happening, you just have circuits that need to be rewired. So instead of looking at it
yeah,
as self-deprecation or self-defeat, it's actually you're doing the actual work. And that's what doing the work is. It's work. And even though it sounds like from the outside looking in, oh, that sounds like a lot of taxing energy, it kind of is. But in order for us to do what you just mentioned, is like really get our heart rate variability dialed in, we have to do that work. You know what I mean? It's not like we can
have
just
to.
click a button and all of a sudden we can be balanced and zen. We have to exercise that ability right through our nervous system. I would imagine would be the number one thing that's really getting stressed out, like why things
Yes.
get on people's nerves.
Some of that's perception, but everything that you just mentioned is stored in the body. So if you're having ravenous thoughts while you're trying to sit still, those are the things that have been trapped inside of you.
Mm,
This was this was my strongest lesson from massage school. And as I'm doing release work with people, I always tell them to pay attention to their thoughts as I'm doing the release work, because then you'll start to understand what's being stored in those muscles. So if you're stretching your hamstrings and a series of thoughts begins happening that's uncomfortable, you can gently assume that you're storing some uncomfortable things in your hamstrings. And so to work through that, you do tissue work and you honor the thoughts in that they're just thoughts. Like you don't have to act on every single thought you have.
Right.
You you can just let it go.
Right.
Pretend it's an old radio in the background that you're just ignoring. They're just thoughts, but they're trapped in you and they need to be given permission to leave. You can't just keep stuffing them down by watching more television.
So the issues are in our tissues.
100%. I mean, all of your nerve signals travel through your fascia.
Right.
So the message gets from your brain to your muscles through fascia, which I
Well,
was watching your
yeah.
video on hydration.
Yeah.
Your fascia can only absorb roughly 3 ounces of water every 15 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, and I did another video about, oh, is that the one where it's talking about don't chug the water, don't.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
And that your fascial system, which nets your whole body, gives your shape. Your actual shape is your fascia.
right.
And your fascia binds up. So if you have a big knot in your shoulder, it turns into a fist or a knot when the muscle is being overstretched.
Hmm.
So if you have a big knot in your shoulder, the worst thing you can do is roll it out without addressing the chest. You
Right.
want to look for the areas that are stuck short will feel stringy. So knots, you don't want to rub them out. You want to stretch what's on the opposite side so that the muscle, because a knot is a muscle trying to prevent any more stretching. But it's also got a bunch of your thoughts and feelings
Hmm.
stored inside of
And the
it.
brain is perceiving that as the area of pain, and that feeds into what you said about perception.
Yes.
And Carla and I had a talk last week, and she's, the fascia. I just saw her actually, and it was all about fascia, and she was like, yeah, divine intelligence that pretty much works and is in the fascial system. It's independent from the brain. But she said it's the perceptions that we have that determine a lot of how things manifest within, right?
Yes. And your HRV is also measuring how you perceive things. That's why I was telling you what's stressful to me isn't necessarily
Right.
what's stressful to you. So what's neat about exercise and what I wish the fitness industry taught is you can use it to make yourself more resilient to stress. Like you're doing right now, you're just casually walking, right?
Yeah.
So your nervous system is communicating things right now. So whatever you're feeling, thinking is being also assigned to this movement. So if walking makes you feel relaxed, then you can just walk to be relaxed. If you can manage to do cardio at a pretty intense level, but be breathing through your nose, you're communicating to your nervous system that this thing isn't that stressful.
Mm.
So nose breathing and then not I don't like the cue, take a deep breath, because I can take a deep breath aggressively. For calming your nervous system, take the longest, slowest breath you can. Because if you were truly in a scenario where you needed to run for your life, fight or flight, you wouldn't be able to control your breathing.
Right.
And so you want long, slow breath to start to tame the HRV.
Nice.
And manage your stress and change your perception is where that came from, right? So if I perceive something as stressful, but then I do that activity just breathing through my nose, I will start to switch my mind's view of that activity away from stressful because you can't do something stressful while calmly breathing. That's the importance of understanding breathing and the value of meditating through your thoughts is they're just thoughts. So if you can
Right.
calmly breathe and let your thoughts happen, then just you're less stressed as is.
And we know the number one needed element by the human body is oxygen. And the
Yep.
way that we obtain that through, you know, our all of our physiological needs is through the breath. So, and there's something to be said too, just about like being conscious of your breath. Something just happens just through, you know, regardless of what method we use. I think a lot of times people get caught up in like, I should do this breath technique or that, this or this. Just focusing on your breath and however way you do that has its own implications. I'm not saying that one way is better than the other, but just the idea of focusing on breath, being aware of your
Hmm.
breath, spending time focusing on your breath. Wow, like I mean, when you really start meditating regularly, you start to realize like, oh shit, like really, because that's what you always go back to typically, or at least for me, when my brain goes this way or that way, I might just go back to your breath. Inhale,
Yep.
exhale, you know, and then let everything relax. And sometimes I'll start from the top down. Sometimes I'll do the perineum squeeze and hold. Sometimes I'll do
Hmm.
the box breathing. Sometimes I'll do the nostril switch. And that's what's so crazy is there's so many different techniques. They're all amazing. And they're all free. Everyone's buying
They're
all
all
this
free.
bullshit to try to do this and do that. And don't get me wrong, a lot of it works, but then you actually have to do it. But the irony of it is the most powerful thing we have is within us and it's free.
Yeah. Well, that's unbelievable because capitalism has taught me that nothing is free.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's implanted this idea of like we consume, 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 consume.
But everything you're saying starts with perception. Your body responds well to those methods because you've done them enough that your body gets the practice.
Yeah.
That's the neat thing about the brain and when you learn how your habits develop, so your habits happen unconsciously. They develop literally because your brain is trying not to think. So when you start learning how to change your habits are built through reward mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you think is rewarding, your brain then builds habits around that reward.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, breathing and meditation is incredibly rewarding. So our bodies have those habits built into them now because we've experienced the reward. The trick is, can you understand there's not a quick fix and work your way to the reward? And most people just don't have the energy to do that. And it starts with perception. And the reason I'm such a huge fan of your products and the things that you do is I had this realization of all of your thoughts and feelings are generated with the calories you consume.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't consume trash calories and create healthy thoughts and feelings. Dirty fuel does not produce clean energy. And so if you're not looking at it from when it went in the ground, the sunlight that it's got, the water that it was nourished with, all of those things play a key element into my thoughts and feelings.
Yeah. I
That's
got a
the
good one.
energy where the
I got a good one for you. Yeah, no, I love it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't mean to do
it's
that.
all good.
But I got something I want to give you. We're going to trademark this soil to soul,
Yeah.
right?
And since you do all that Korean stuff, soil to seal. Just kidding.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that because Mama's son was here, my mother in law. I think we broke down about 100 pounds of Chinese cabbage.
Hmm.
So we started harvesting it, and she's coming back next week to do more, and then she'll come back in 2 weeks to do more. And every 2 weeks she's
Yeah.
gonna come until I can't grow it anymore, which will January, February, March, around April, May will be the last harvest. I'll be able to pull some out. So After that, it
Oh man.
gets too hot. After that, the cabbage does not like the heat, and then the bugs want to come out and stuff like that. So I've always got to like think about to shift what I grow. Cabbage loves the cold, so
Oh, interesting.
yeah, man. When we were down in the 20s, I just it's obviously it's in a hoop house, but I just covered it inside the hoop house as well, and it just I don't even know if it needed that second cover. Did not care. It was just like
I love
thriving.
cabbage.
Yeah,
That explains me. I love cabbage. I'm from the cold, so
yeah,
heck yeah.
yeah. Cabbage is awesome.
You are what you eat.
Yeah, and we're finding out also on that note that we're induced with copious amounts of microplastics, like what is it, a credit card's worth every 2 weeks or some statistic out there or whatever. Don't quote me on that one, but the point what I'm getting at here is these fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, we're seeing like 80, anywhere from 70 to 90% reduction in BPA, which is
Yeah.
obviously a form of plastic. But I would love to just speculate that all these other forms of plastic are also potentially getting removed. Because when we look at biology, and I went to school for microbiology, and so it was like learning about how they remediate things, and then
Hmm.
in my own personal studies, learning about EM1 and what the Japanese doctors had figured out with those groups of microbes and how they can literally eat radioactive material. It really kind of like gave me this sense of lots of joy and peace because it's like we hear all this doom and gloom all the time. We're so saturated with like how bad everything is and what we shouldn't do and where and eat and store or how we store
Yeah.
our food. To know that like if you're eating these foods, you're helping your body get rid of a lot of this toxicity. But anyways, yeah, just connecting the idea when you start learning about microbiology, like how they remediate and clean things up, and they're kind of they're in, and the ones that do that, they're in and they're out. Like some, they don't like live permanently in here, so it's imperative that we eat
Yeah.
these things daily, right? It's like vitamin C, the body doesn't manufacture it, so you actually have to obtain it from food. Same with magnesium, right? And
Yeah.
so same applies to
All
the bacillus strands of bacteria.
and all this stuff we're talking about is my primary frustration with the fitness industry because gym bros don't care about your microbiome. But those are the people we're trusting with the standard of fitness. It's hilarious.
And that moves right into like a health meter too. And I think there's like two differentiating things that should never be differentiated. It should always be whole, because that's the problem with most of our science. When you look at science and history, the way we're taught in school, we learn these specific subjects being separate from each other, but that is so far from the truth. And this is same kind of notion that you're making now, is like we see fit, jacked, ripped. They could be enhanced or not. But I've seen some of these guys, like, I don't want to say any names, but one of the most ripped older guys I see, he's got millions of followers, but you see him like food prepping everything in plastic. It's nothing's organic. Like the food is like, I'm looking at the food and I'm like, yeah, you're jacked and you're ripped, but holy fuck, your tissues are filled with shit. Like I can just, you
Yeah.
can see it in their face. You can see how their face kind of gets sunk in, and you see it under the eyes a little bit. You start to study radiology, and you start, their skin isn't supple. It doesn't have that cherry vibe to it. And yeah, it's a trip, man. Like, but they're
Yeah.
fucking jacked, bro. You can't deny that. So, and it's tough. We can't. It's like it's like an animal. They can't talk to you. It's like we can't see inside someone's physical, but we can see them physically on the outside, right? And so sometimes we
And
represent.
but it's just sad that that's the standard we're chasing is unhealthy inside,
Right.
look healthy outside. And I just wish that wasn't the standard. I had
I
this
think it's changing though.
eye-opening.
I think people like you are changing it. Because it's like things have evolved so quickly, technology's advanced so quickly, and now
Yes.
fitness is as well. And we know if we go to
Yes.
school to learn it, it's not going to be there. And well, if it is, it'll be 10 years from now. But things are speeding up so fast. Knowledge is speeding up so fast. It doesn't just apply to technology. It applies to everything.
Yes.
And that's what we have to understand, whether it's spirituality, nutrition, fitness, movement, massage, like every aspect of everything that exists is evolving rapidly, not just one sector of
Yes.
society.
That it is. The hard thing that I've seen in the evolution isn't what's happening with men, it's what's happening with women.
Mm,
And how the issue that I had with young girls was convincing them that their body fat could be too low, and they just will not listen. Like if you don't have a six pack, you're not in great shape.
right.
And that's just patently false. You couldn't be more wrong. Your fat is a hormone secreting organ. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you have too little of it, your hormones are out of balance.
Mm,
And that's way more important for women than it is for men. And it's all from the standard that men are setting of broad shoulders, big chest, flat stomach, turn yourself into a box. But really, like this yoga is phenomenal
mm-hmm.
because there's not a spiritual element to deadlifting, you know, like like deadlifting 315 pounds while as a bro, it like might make you feel manly.
Yeah,
Like
I
you
mean,
don't
it's a
see
testosterone
God
ego. It's a
after.
test ego thing, right? It's like
Yeah.
yeah.
No one's ever deadlifted themselves into seeing God,
Mm-hmm.
but
Stretch
you can
yourself.
hold a that's right, you can hold a pose and breathe yourself into a whole nother dimension.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And
That's powerful.
and so I just wish that people could connect more ideas than they've connected. Because while there's nothing wrong with doing a bicep curl to grow your bicep, it just doesn't make you better in any other way.
Right. Superficial almost.
Yeah, it's the least efficient possible way to get healthy is bodybuilding. Do every single thing one little piece at a time. There's not enough time in the day for
Right.
most people to do the bodybuilding life. So they've got to learn how to stress themselves properly. That's why I like the HRV tool and the devices that we have. But then also the understanding of exercise doesn't necessarily make you lose weight.
Yeah.
It can make it harder to lose weight if you have bad habits. So exercising is going to make you hungrier. So if you have bad eating habits, then exercise is going to make you practice your bad eating habits more often
Right.
because you'll be hungrier doing it. So you've got to learn how to reshape your habits, then start exercising appropriately.
And you say appropriately because if you do the standard bodybuilding style of lifting, you're sabotaging your organs.
Your organs, you're
Ner-
sabotaging your nervous system. So just with a bicep curl, like I never use this movement in daily life.
right.
I'm literally practicing something that I don't need to get better at. Whereas if I were to do a push up, I'm getting better at pushing myself up off the floor.
Right.
If I do a lunge, I'm getting better at getting up off the floor, right? There are these drills you can do that are just getting up off the floor. And if you do them 3 times, you're going to be tired because they're hard.
Yep.
But just doing squats doesn't it does make your legs stronger, but at squatting, however you squatted. So, like, nowhere in life does anyone ever have weight across their shoulders that they're squatting with their feet square. Yeah, it'll make my legs stronger at that, but it will make me walk more stiffly. I walk a lot more than I squat with things across my back.
Right.
So I just want my exercise to match the things I do in my daily life,
And
not
and let's
to
say like
just grow my
of
muscles.
course, absolutely. Touche. And most people sit too much, right? We're sitting too much, we're in cars, we're at offices. So with that being
Yes.
said, what would you say to that person? They came in like, okay, what should I do? I'm gonna stop
The
squat.
key is,
I need to obviously build my legs, but I sit all day, so my psoas are tight, my hams and quads are pretty much shut off. My brain muscle connection doesn't exist, right? Like,
Yeah. The answer to that question is to get the person to observe their environment and figure out the change that they can reasonably make. My suggestion is going to be don't worry about necessarily correcting your posture, just don't sit stationary. So have 3 places to sit where you're in different positions and alternate between them. Because being in one position for an extended period of time, your body starts to collect fascia in places where muscles are to replace muscles having to contract.
mm,
So that's why a lot of us develop knots here
mm,
is sitting, my tissues roll forward to find end range of motion.
right.
Now my shoulders can't come forward anymore. So this is actually a more restful position for my body. So the key is to it's not to do the opposite, it's to not stay in one position for an
Ever,
extended period of time.
ever.
So you've got to figure out a variety of ways to sit and move.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the secret because you just don't want your tissues developing knots to hold you in positions for hours at a time.
And they sell, back in the day, like I remember 8 years ago, the standing desk things. I had the Vader. That thing was like $800 back then. Now you can go to Amazon and get $100 desk that goes up and goes down, and sort of allows you to be a little
Yeah.
bit, have these different positions. And
Get a chair without a back.
yeah,
The honest truth is the way to be healthy is minorly inconvenience yourself all the time. Because if you can't sit comfortably, you won't stay there for hours.
right.
But the other thing is, not sitting comfortably, you think more clearly and sharper.
Hmm.
Like when you're sitting in this rested, if I'm slouched in my chair typing, I might doze off if I'm doing something monotonous.
Right.
If I'm if I'm constantly up moving, I'm going to be sharper. I'm keeping more of my resources online.
Yeah. Yeah. When I got this treadmill, I was like, oh, when I go to script write, I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of brain. That's a lot of brain. And I'm like, maybe I need to stop. And then I'll just keep walking and I'll find myself writing quicker. I'm like, what? Oh,
Yeah.
what the fuck? It's a trip, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same with fasting. Fasting, unlike people, for some reason, people think that if you're in starvation mode, your brain's going to shut down and you just lay down. No, if you're in starvation mode, it's hunting time. You're sharp. You're focused.
Yeah.
Your brain is like ride or die. You're in it. So it's the opposite of what people really believe. And there was a book from years ago. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they took a Chicago school district and they looked at the math and science, and all these kids were performing at 17th in the world and 20th in the world or something like that. And all they did was add fitness class before school. So they went around and they got all these parents to agree to bring their kids one class period earlier, and the kids exercised before school. And by the end of the year, all their test scores had rocketed up into like the top 5 in the world. Nothing different. They didn't change the teachers, nothing. All they did was put exercise in front of their day.
It's so true too. If you ever get a chance to train in the morning, it's way more effective than training at night. And in my
Yeah.
opinion, you don't really want to train at night because you want to be able to get good sleep. So you need to be careful about stimulating the shit out of yourself before bed, which I struggle with because I love jujitsu, and the
Yep.
advanced class doesn't end until 8:30.
And you're fired up at the end of that.
You are and you're not. As I've evolved, I'm about to get my purple belt now on the next promotion day or whatever. And things have shifted now that I'm done with blue. Cause it's like white belt and blue belt. Yeah, bro. Like I'm in there. I'm fighting myself. I'm trying to use muscles to move people. I don't really understand the mechanics. My brain doesn't really know what to look for, and so I'm trying to do
Yeah,
mind over matter a lot, right? And
right.
I'm not a big guy, so that's not fun for me when hardly anyone's my size. And I always look around. I'm like, why are all these big sons of bitches coming here? Why can't I thought this was for people my size? Like, but it's so
Yeah,
good, because they're brothers and I love them to death, and they're gentle giants. But I've learned as I've evolved in my jujitsu journey, I can go to class now and like I can leave, and I notice my heart rate is nowhere near what it used to be, and
yeah,
so I am adapting, right? My body is adapting and perceiving the stress differently, but I'm also, for a matter of a fact, not gassing myself out like I used to either.
yeah. Your fascial system stores all that information. So your frames, for example, are stored in your fascia. When you are in your opening practices, you're taught to tuck your chin and
Right.
slap the floor as you fall backwards, right?
Bam. Yeah.
Bam. Well, when you've done that so many times, now it's just written into your tissues.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it anymore. You can move on to the next thing. When that needs to come out, it's going to come out. This is exactly the point I'm making about fitness,
Yeah.
right? If we could use the gym to teach people how to handle stress, how to start their day correctly, which is not show up to the gym and work out and exhaust yourself. You show up to the gym, you do a good warm up. Do you know what the Turkish get up is?
Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
It's a compound movement. And there are studies that show the more movements you chain together in one exercise, the more you stimulate your brain. So you can show up, you can do a set of, 5 Turkish get-ups per side. Now you've chained 7 elements together, up and down.
Global.
Your brain, yeah, you're using your whole body. You're using your brain. You're not just one muscle at a time fighting for blood supply in your body,
Yeah.
right? And your nervous system understands those things, and then it's better prepped for the stress of the day.
Mm.
Whereas, you know, you'll see the standard um, calorie set at is 2,000 per day. That's what people think is a healthy metabolism. So I'm just going to use that for easy numbers. Okay. When I wake up in the morning, my average metabolism per day is how many calories I have available for use. I don't get more unless I consume simple carbohydrates,
Okay.
right? So if I go to the gym at 6 a.m. and I spend 800 calories doing a workout from 7 a.m. until I go to bed, I have 1,200 calories that my body has to work through today with, unless I consume sugar, right? So I don't want to necessarily just wake up and spend all my calories at the gym. I'm going to need those for the rest of the day. Unless the rest of the day you're just going to be napping, then get up and smash a workout, right?
Right.
The answer isn't don't ever do that. It's just understand what you're working with.
Right.
And our bodies are so much more complex than the fitness industry communicates they are.
Right.
To the fitness industry, it's just gain muscle, lose fat, and you're healthy,
Yeah.
when it's infinitely more complex than that.
And what we do today sets us up for tomorrow, and that's why consistency for everyone, especially in the natural industry that wants to be clean and natural, not be on peptides, which I don't seem natural to me, and testosterone and all that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like wow.
It's all processed,
Yeah.
right? Or ultra
But it's
processed,
exogenous.
you
You're
know?
putting something exogenous in your body that it endogenously can create. So why don't you work
Yeah,
on the natural system that God gave you and optimize it, before you start exogenously putting hormones inside your body or things that signal hormones to do certain things.
yeah,
And to add to what you said about like the Turkish get up and this kettlebell, using kettlebells, using clubs the physique that builds versus the physique of a bodybuilder. I think everyone wants the athletic physique. They
Yes,
want the Greek god physique. But we have to realize that's not a bodybuilder's physique. So quit
right.
lifting like a fucking bodybuilder, right? Like
That's right.
if we're gonna be like straight to the point and go right at it, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and I get that people are so tight and doing like a kettlebell swing for some people, it's just they're gonna do more damage than good. But you start where you are. You crawl before you walk. But
Yeah.
I truly do believe like if we did a survey, right, everyone would be like, yeah, I'd rather have a more athletic physique and be lean and have a little bit of ab, 12% body fat, than be like this, like
Yep.
walking around
That's
like
I
that.
that's what I heard commonly as I listened to people talk about what they wanted as when I was their health coach. And everybody wants to be lean. They don't want to be massive. And the trick to lean, you never overgrow one part if everything's working at the same time.
Right.
You can only overgrow one part by using that one part. And then that creates all of these misuse injuries that you wouldn't have had you just used your body as it was intended.
Yeah. Well, bro, we could keep going for hours like we do. I have to pick up Clifford, my son, but I wanted you to drop anything you wanted to drop for people to connect with you. I know you still do personal training. You're one of my favorite personal trainers I've ever met. I know you have some really high end clients. I don't know how much more you can take, but if you want to drop any of that here,
I guess probably I would just say find me on Instagram at Dillon7Peterson
okay.
and private message me there because I'm in another country right now trying to learn a language while managing a training business. So it'll be another couple of months before I can take on much else.
Okay.
Um, but coming soon, I have to come back to the States and I'm definitely open to starting up some virtual stuff and shaping my training business into something a bit more progressive and spiritual rather than just bodybuilding.
Well, that's awesome. And we're going to drop that in the notes. And one thing I wanted to tell you, I haven't even mentioned this to you. I've always wanted to take the wellness center, like the first experiences we ever had together in the center at Crucial 4, right?
Yeah.
And take all the blood works that we saw working with Diamond Physician, all the other people we've worked with, all the other chiropractors and all the clients, and move it digital. Like take those conversations. So with that being said, man, I would love to get you involved in some of the fitness and movement aspects of the digital wellness center. Set up some like a la carte services that people can purchase directly from you
Yeah.
through that. So I'm still working out details. We're launching the free beta version here pretty soon in like a month or two.
Hmm.
And I'm just kind of like going through things a little differently than most people. I've seen a lot of digital products out there that are just shit. And I've seen a lot that are good, but they're missing the one thing that they're all missing is experience. A lot of it is
Yeah.
like data, like get this, do this, do that. But none of it comes with actual experience. And that's why, and me for life, that's how I've gotten to where I am is like through experiences, like in, not just like reading something and trying to conceptualize it, actually applying it in your life and learning how when you apply things that you read and you learn about, things change, and there's all these little like nits and nannies that you need to learn to actually make it
Yeah.
work. So, anyways, taking that online, I want you to be a part of it.
What I actually would love is anybody who has Aura Ring data or Whoop Strap data that they want analyzed and a program made. that is where you'll find things that I can do that no one else can do.
Awesome.
So
That's valuable
if
right there. Okay, cool. So
if you want your Whoop and Aura or any HRV data analyzed, I'll look over it all. I'll tell you what I see. We'll build a program. I'll tell you how to make the adjustments necessary for what your readiness score is communicating.
awesome. Well, you know you're gonna get mine here in a few hours.
Great. I'll send you all kinds of guidelines if you want.
Yeah.
So
I've still been doing those
if
workouts you showed me when you came on the farm, you know? And man, I just feel so much better after I get done with my workouts versus like I was just starting to feel like off in meetings and just
yeah,
off afterwards. And like even to the point to where my voice would be like this, you know, because I was doing so much pressing and not pulling. And yeah, it was just crazy, man. So God bless you, bro. I really appreciate you and everything you're doing. And I look forward to future conversations. And yeah, we got some really cool
man,
stuff happening, bro. We're looking at land in Costa Rica. We're looking at events to hold there. You know, I'm saying this to you because I want you there, Carla. Like
good.
all these people that I've been wanting to talk to. You know, it's like, oh, we're family, and I want you guys. I want other people to know what you guys have taught me and what you guys have shown me because it's changed my fucking life, dude. And it's like, there's no way I could perceive the stress that I'm under right now so elegantly without the knowledge that you guys have shared with me, you know? So,
It it takes a community, man, because you've got this depth of knowledge that I don't have, and vice versa. But we pair so well together, and it allows you to do your thing and me to do mine. And then we can just come together and share it with people and enrich their lives. I love it.
yeah, God bless. Well, Dillon's handle is going to be in the show notes, guys. You can check him out. Like you said, if you've got some HRV data that you want to send over to him, hit the DM. God bless. Thank you,
Thank you so
guys.
much, brother.